Anyway, speaking of Sonic the Hedgehog, we are one day as a recording after what Sonic Prime got released officially in full. We're not talking about the Sonic Speed Simulator, and anyone's experience trying to watch that on that flimsy screen with everyone else in the way. It's like no.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
did see people.
I'm playing Sonic Speed Simulator. It's pretty fun. It's a gacha game, and there is controversy behind the crunch time developers,
I've heard that.
and we're not going to go into that. But
No.
yeah, they got an advanced screening 5 days ahead of the
Yeah,
first episode, and
yeah,
a lot happened in the first episode. Christ.
yeah. One thing I did thought was kind of cool about it because I knew people were going to screen record it anyway because they were all because fans.
Yeah.
When you're in the little area because they do it like an outdoor cinema, it's like things will react to what's on screen. So there'll be bad things running around, rings flying about, and even the prism explodes. So that was kind of a nice little detail to put in there.
Yeah, they actually have a prism in the
In the
screening
middle.
room.
Yeah,
It's interesting. They got a new Yoke City, which is a
yeah,
fun name.
exactly.
Which in the subtitles keep changing the freaking spelling.
Yeah, I had heard of that. Some people have tried to
They'll
hack
say new
the spelling.
yolk as in an egg yolk, and new
Yeah,
yolk as in they spelt joke with a Y.
yeah, I've seen that a few times.
But yeah, this is not going to be a review, another analysis and discussion of the whole series. We're going to talk about the first 3 episodes because that's kind of a self-contained narrative,
Mm.
even though we'll talk about other things as well. But first of all, it's
It's
odd to me. The series is odd. It's not bad.
no.
This is like what pure Sonic adrenaline animation should be. This is what we wanted since Sonic Adventure, or even or a bit later since Unleashed, because it just works. The animation is so gorgeous.
Hmm. Yeah, we should say basically this is more like a first viewing really of these episodes. That's what we're doing. We may come back and review these later on, but it's really
Yeah,
just
we'll go over series analysis, but again, the first 3 episodes.
yeah.
But yeah, the animation is like I expect. When we first saw screens and little snippets here and there, it's like it looks unfinished. It doesn't look, polished.
Well, again, the thing at the time we kept saying some of it looked a bit like Source Filmmaker with some of the locations, particularly in Green Hill. But then as more has been shown off, it's like, oh, okay, there is more they put into this.
Yeah, it's one of the same things I had with Sonic Lost World when I saw screens of it and even videos. It doesn't look good, but in motion, when you actually see it in its entirety, it looked better.
Hmm.
That's one of the few things I can say good about Sonic Lost World. It looks good and it works in motion.
Yeah, I know you. I know you're definitely one of the people who don't like the square tree thing. That seems to be a bit of a touching point for some people.
Why the hell they bring it back for Sonic Forces? Christ.
Yeah, that's good move on.
Yeah, the animation itself is something that you and many other animation buffs will say it's like it's had a lot of stretch and bounce to it.
Yes, I mean it's funny. People have often argued, particularly in the games, like the characters are a bit too. I don't want to say a model, but it's like people said they should push them more, like push the more elasticity, I guess, of the characterizations of them in the cartoony way, and they've really done it with this one, particularly in some of the action scenes.
Yeah, in comparison to Sonic Boom still had their bounce, but still kind of rigid in their
Yeah, I
movements.
would say like the first half of series one, there's more just characters more in model, not too many things, and then series halfway through they get a bit more of a bounce to them, and there's a bit of like smearing, kind of where the characters like elasticate off scene and stuff, but it's still pretty much relatively normal animation. This one's going full on whack a smack a boom bang in some
Yeah, because
sequences.
it's speed. You need to have a more fluid motion. It's like the quills. Sonic 06 tried the same thing. We're having the quills be more free flowing.
Hmm. I mean, they kind of acting more like
It
hair.
didn't look
Yeah.
good there. It kind of went halfway through, and that was it.
Yeah.
But
I
this
mean,
one is full on the mouth, the arms, the gloves.
yeah.
It's like halfway, like majority, like halfway through episode 2, I think. No, halfway through episode 1, Sonic is captured and put in the device, and I kept noticing his hand kept twitching. It's like any other animator would have just left that alone, be stiff, and only move or twist when it needed to. But no, the hand was twitching every other second.
Is this during? I'm trying to think. What point was this happening in the episode?
Is when it's being tested by the council.
Oh, that yeah, when he's got those electricity thing. Yeah, because they're kind of like because he's stuck in this like a force field between his hands and
Yeah, his hands and his feet are still twitching. Any
yeah.
other animator would have just left those alone.
Again, I don't know whether that's meant to be like an effect in the bubbles that they're in, like they're kind of wobbling or doing something. But again, if it is just like a twitching thing, like he's constantly trying to move them, but a force is stopping him. Yeah, that's a nice little detail.
Yeah, it's like everything moves. It just had that free flow into it, and it just it's when you're first watching it, it's a bit distracting, but you get used to it, and it's like it's part of its nature.
Hmm. I mean, people have often said Sonic is very much a cartoon character. I mean, he's kind of like, if, you know, in many ways, he's very, you could make him as a rubber hose 1930s style characterization. And this one is, it's still everybody's, again, one thing I remember saying from the early trailers was how much they were doing it for the action scenes. I was curious, more slower pace, dialogue driven stuff. It's like, it does dial it back. It isn't always wacky and stretchy. It does dial it back when it needs to be, you know.
It works wonders in the action scenes.
It does.
I think episode 3 definitely did that as well.
Yeah, we should. I should say we should sort of overview. I mean, how do you think as because originally I said we were going to review the first 2 episodes, but this obviously felt like a 3-parter. So
yeah,
you know.
Even though the entire season of this show is serialized, it is one entire arc you have to watch.
Yeah,
it's not like Sonic Boom where everything is in its own canon, or even it's kind of a more case of the adventure arcs in Sonic X.
Well, I was going to say it's very similar to X, whereas like some episodes will lead on to the next one, and then there's self-contained, you know, this happens and move on type deal. Where this is very much every episode ends with a sort of cliffhanger to make you want to watch the next one.
Yeah, it's not even like because I expect this in like Doctor Who or even Lost or some of those shows. Like even Doctor Who had self-contained episodes, but there was a narrative thread connecting every episode.
Yeah,
I expected that.
You expected more like there'd be a reference or a word or a thing in the background. We would sort of find out more as each episode go on.
Yeah, I expected, except maybe the first 2 episodes, I expected every episode of the show to be self-contained in a universe. And the narrative is the same Sonic, different versions of each character, and the narrative is the shards. But it's not that.
No.
You can make a movie out of this. You can edit it down and make a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to bring this up. I mean, it's kind of like when Boom did Robots of the Sky 4-parter, which again, I say you could have easily edited that as a mini feature because you could do that as a whole thing. Although looking back at it, I think you could argue part 1 is the most self-contained, you know, without the cliffhanger. That's the most self-contained of the other 2. Part 2 and 3 marry into each other, and then part 4 is kind of like an epilogue. But effectively, those are like if you view them as one whole thing or separate episodes type deal.
Yeah, I will just go ahead briefly. 4 and 5 is its own self-contained adventure as well, and I'm not going to spell anything later wrong because you haven't watched it yet.
No. As of recording this, I've only seen the first 3, so you know, still more to come.
So, episode 1, it kind of jumps around to its narrative because it jumps straight to the prison being broken.
Yeah. It's interesting that in these 3-parters, they do literally the Sonic Adventure thing, which is let's see it from different side of the story. Let's see from the main character side. Let's see it from the side characters. Let's see it from other people's point of views. That seems to be the big deal of this. And I'm curious, like, did they plan out to do it like this? Because it even opens up with like the sort of Sonic talking to the narrating, saying, yeah, this is me and my friends. We always do this thing. And kind of, yeah, we're always win. So it does feel like it's telling you, like, this event happened to us this one time where things went really badly.
Yeah, do you know what I thought for a second? I thought it would be like it kind of felt like Red Dwarf
Back to Earth.
Back in the Red.
Back in the Red, oh, okay.
Because that jumped around different perspectives.
Yeah, I mean,
especially with the AR scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off with them in the prison. Then we see how they got back on the Dwarf, and then as you say, they've cut back and forth between when they're on the Dwarf and it's reconstructed, and then when they're in prison. So yeah, similar thing, man.
And that and different artificial reality scenarios.
Yeah, that was another thing on top of that.
Yeah, it kind of felt like that for a second. It's just like different, like you said, different perspectives and different forms of the narrative from Sonic was remembering what happened.
Yeah, because the way it sort of works is episode 1, Shattered, is very much from Sonic's point of view. It's mainly from his point of view, what's going on, and then we cut back and forth with some of the other characters. Part 2 focuses more on like the alternate universe under the Eggman Chaos Council and what's happening with them. And then part 3 is back with Sonic himself and just the group he's managed to put together.
Yeah. Plus, Shadow is more involved, even though it doesn't feel like he's in the show.
Yeah, I mean, part two, Yoke's on You. That's very much where, he's in this as well, and this is what he's trying to do as well.
The alternate universe of the dystopian Chaos Council with Ninetales, Rebel Rouge, Renegade Nux,
Yeah.
and Rusty Rose.
Yes.
I mentioned we have the Chaos Council of 5 Eggmen, which is Mr. Dr. Eggman, Dr. Don't, Dr. Babble, Dr. Do It, and Dr. Don't.
Yeah, basically different Eggmans. You have,
No,
basically.
Dr. Dream. That's the
Yeah.
one.
I mean, the way I describe them is basically, Supreme Eggman, Old Man, wannabe hipster, gamer kid, and baby. That's how I see them.
And so only surprisingly, Gramps gets less fucking screen time, even as one of the best jokes in the entire episode.
I mean, I knew. I mean, we're going in. We knew there were going to be multiple Eggmans, and presumably throughout the series they're going to be.
Oh yeah, ever since they've got a drop of those leaks artworks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the shoes is another thing as well. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's dystopian New York City, which is a pun, and a joke, and a reference.
Yeah.
And it is this. Apparently, it was Green Hill. It doesn't change any part of the planet. It's like he's still inside Green Hill.
There's actually a sequence where he discovers a bit of like an archway in the middle of an alleyway and sort of realizes, oh shit, this is where I think it is. And I want to admit, there's a part of me that feels this reminded me weirdly enough of Jack 2, where it's like they're in this big dystopian city and they don't realize it's actually their world, but totally screwed over by something.
Yeah, not until they find Sage's hut.
Sage's hut, yeah, where they realize that it's their world in the future that's been devastated.
Yeah, so I still think Jack 2 is the best story out of all three.
Yeah, I mean, it does definitely do the whole time paradox thing very well. I mean, for a game that changes its tone, it does find an excuse to do it in a way that's very well thought out.
Yeah, because it made sense.
Yeah, it made sense in some sense. But yeah, that's similarly the vibe I was getting from this, with Sonic in this dystopian world. Very much like, because it sets out the big thing we were kind of wondering about is this sort of the fact that this is alternate universe where Sonic never existed. So none of the characters ever had a Sonic to help them out in this world for them.
Yeah, and apparently the shards scattered throughout the entire multiverse, and the Eggmen got a hold of it. And just ruled the city with an iron fist. Everyone's on conveyor belt pathways, like they have to conform on a pedestrian walkway.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's been showed up the joke of him trying to ask people, what's going on, and people just ignoring him. That's really, I will say the humor in this show, it's not on the same level as Boom, and I didn't expect it to be, but there's a few moments there where it does make me giggle.
Here's the thing, though. I think this, in terms of writing for the characters, this is the perfect balance for Sonic. Like, Sonic is headstrong, he jumps in, doesn't really ask questions about a lot of things, and that's proven throughout the entirety of this.
Yeah.
But he's also jokey, and he's very upfront and friendly. And that's what I like. Like, he will joke about it all the time, but when something gets serious, he will stop and listen most of the time. And you want to take stuff seriously, and especially in the battle sequence, and you go ahead and freaking spin dash.
Yeah. Yeah, I was chatting with another friend of mine, like in many ways, Sonic characterization wise, he's similar to Spider-Man, as in, he'll be in dangerous scenarios, but he'll be joking, quipping, and kind of showing off. But as the moment he knows someone's going to be in danger or one of his friends is in trouble, he cuts that all out and just goes straight into what he needs to do. Yeah.
Then we meet the other, the rebels, obviously.
Yeah.
the story of Tails, which I'm surprised he actually acknowledged I guess it was still technically canon, but the bullies for Tails, it was the two foxes or whatever to try and pull his tails and all that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they even put that in the show. That effectively is canon.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing, because when they announced the show, they did say, it's going to be in continuity with the game's canonicity, which, again, there's definitely been a lot more talk about that recently, especially given this year alone. So
yeah, right now, this year, there's a lot of confirmations coming from Flynn, especially.
Yeah,
but we'll get into that at some point. But right now, the idea of this being canon doesn't sit well with me.
I mean, it is its own. I've always said this with every Sonic show, is that their own takes of this character, they're never quite the same from one show to another. As I said, this is drastically different from Boom anyway, which itself was a spin-off anyway.
Yeah, so that's probably one of the reasons why this show feels odd, especially in its structure. Is again, especially also from Frontiers, is we spent a decade with the lol we suck meta narrative of self-contained adventures, jokes, self-deprecating humor.
I mean, the irony
A decade of just safe and low-hanging fruit jokes of Sonic's expense. And this year alone, it's like we had a movie that didn't, a sequel to a movie that didn't suck. We had not the best classic collection, but a very damn fine classic collection.
I mean, it's still the same games as you know and love. I mean, at worst, they're not the definitive version that can go on for ages, but they're still the same games you know and love. They still, if you love those games,
I think it's a pretty decent collection of Sonic games, especially when you have 4 games in one, and you can play the entirety in one go if you want. Although I don't understand why we would include Mirror Adventures and the Sonic Symphony as bonus.
I mean, that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing about the extras.
Sonic Frontiers, which is one of the best-selling games of ever right now.
Yeah, apparently it's under Unleash, from what I've read. Apparently Unleash is...
It outdid Mania. Think of that one. It outdid Mania. And now we have a TV show where it's been very well received on its first release.
I mean, it made me laugh.
Again, I remind you, it's like 1 day after its release. And it's good. This has been the year of Sonic.
It has been. I mean, as we speak now, it's already been brand new on Netflix. It's on the top, 10 like brand new releases, and people are going to be watching it anyway.
I don't think it's on top Wednesday, but we can hope.
Nah, I mean, it's still in the top. It's just like the list of programs you need to watch on the service. That's the big deal. They make the big deal out of that, and it's doing well.
Yeah, also there's only 8 episodes in this season, which I'm guaranteed there's actually more episodes being produced. But I mean, we're gonna what?
I was going to say they have confirmed it's a 24-episode run, so presumably they're doing. We get 8 episodes for.
Oh, go suck on rotten eggs, Netflix. Go and suck up a rotten egg smoothie with garlic salt, okay? I hate it when you fucking do this, Netflix. I don't understand why you need to do this all the fucking time. If there's an entire season of a show ready to be put out, you put out the entire season. If you're that invested of people binging your fucking network streaming service, let them binge the fucking shows.
Wow,
you don't have to cut up an entire block of episodes into different segments released across about a span of a few years in order to get your fucking money's worth. Christ, you do this every time. Every single fucking show now, it needs to be split up into several seasons, it's like a mid-season arc or something. No one likes mid-season arcs. It sucked in Doctor Who, and that did it. It sucked when Walking Dead did it. You don't need to do a mid-season arc on a fucking streaming platform.
Wow, how long have you been holding that bad boy in?
Oh, a long while. I was wondering, why is it only 8 episodes? You can't get an entire narrative done in 8 episodes. Maybe you can. Maybe you can get an entire narrative done within 8 episodes in half-hour blocks. What is essentially 4 hours.
Yeah, I think the way it's working for the 8 episodes we got, I think there is this is the first half of the story, and then presumably they'll continue it on. And again, this is what they used to do with TV back in the days. And when they show a brand new show, they would show 8 or 10 episodes, and that will be it until they decide here's the next set of episodes, either because we're holding them back or we're still making them. That tends to be the reason.
We've already got our fucking money. We've got the fucking monthly payments of almost $50 now. It has gone up several times in the last few years in order to funnel their freaking original crap.
Yeah.
There is so much crap being put out by them.
I know. I mean, we could be here all day.
They don't have to split up an entire block of episodes into several seasons.
Yeah.
They have our money.
I know. I mean, the thing is that you have to remember that we are living in this day and age now where a lot of TV shows, particularly in streaming service, they are movies, but they're just spliced into episodic chunks these days. I mean, this is, again, I'm pretty sure this was designed to be a TV show.
If you're going to have that, though, then why do it? If you're going to have a movie like Sherlock, they're only 3 episodes per season, but they're an hour and a half long each.
Yeah, they do them as 60-minute long episodes.
No, they're an hour and a half long each. They were movies. They're essentially movies.
Yeah, they're effectively mini features, basically, and
If do that, I think The Crown does that. The Orville did that. Season 3 of The Orville did that. One of the episodes is an hour and a half long, and it's a good fucking episode. If you're going to do that, but you don't need to split an entire season up. God, I forgot what the fuck we're talking about now.
I think we've gone through the Netflix's position of how they do stuff, but let's get back to the show.
Yeah, Sonic in New York City. It's one of the best things they showcased, and one of the driving forces of, I guess, the entirety of his New York adventures is his connection with Tails, or in this case, Nine.
Yeah, I'm surprised there isn't someone. I'm surprised no one's done a joke of 9 Inch Tails. I'm surprised no one's done that yet. I'm asking.
Well, thank you very much, Nikki. Now they have to.
I'm just surprised no one's done it yet, and the fact probably someone will do it after this. That's what I'm waiting for now.
Well, then again, you go deep enough on the internet, you'll find out that Tails is bigger than Sonic.
I mean, there were already people were saying this is basically, emo kids, well, edgelord Tails. I think that was what people were kind of joking with this version. So I'm surprised nobody's done that yet. But
yeah, but it works with the character, especially in the background of how he grew up. He didn't have a Sonic to look after him or teach him the ways. No, he pretty much went all out and say, "I'm going to take care of myself."
Yeah. I mean, I will say one thing that surprised me about this was all the advertisement they've done with this version of Tails. I thought he only had one because obviously he's got 9 robotic little pincers basically instead. And there's actually shot in part 2 or in episode 2 or maybe episode 1. You do see like he still has his 2 tails, but they're just like these weird little things. Like he just never used them like to fly or anything. He just relies on his robotic appendages.
Now, I think he can fly.
Yeah, but I don't think he uses them that often. I'm just saying you can see that.
No, he'll just spat on across the fucking wall.
Yeah, I will say there is a lot. That's one thing I will say animation-wise. I love the fact that they've really gone to town with how, he's got these 9 things. What's he going to do? How is he going to do in combat and walk? In fact, when you first see him in his little lab, he's actually using it as a chair, which is, again, that's good creativity. If you're going to run with a character with multiple limbs, just go with it. Just think of all the gags, all the visual things you could do with that aspect.
Yeah, so it's just the opposite of what the characters are. Rouge doesn't seem to be that much different.
No, although it's funny that we do get a flashback of her, like how Green Hill got turned into this. Which
a young rebel technically.
Yeah, Run Rebel. Which it is funny. I'm curious actually to say this because again, this is technically Rouge's second animated appearance in TV show wise since X. So it's been a long time since she's been on screen.
Yeah, I've got to say I like how they animate their eyes. I don't know why. It's just the eyes when they animate with their expressions just works so fucking well.
Again,
usually you just get to a point of just the eyelashes going up and down, or maybe just the eyes getting slants in it to show expressions. But this one really moves the entire eye.
It does, yeah. There's a lot of that in there. I will say it's funny because we do see her hanging upside down like a bat, which I don't know either in games or comics they've ever portrayed her like that. If she's ever done that before.
No, not that I recall. I think they only do that when she's spying or being indiscreet, but never sleeping.
I was going to say, unless she did that in Adventure 2 or something like that, I cannot remember.
Yeah, she hung upside down in introducing herself to Shadow and Eggman on the Ark in Adventure 2.
Right then, okay.
She did that, but never sleeping. I have never seen her sleep like a bat.
The bat thing. We've never seen her do an actual bat thing, really, if we're being honest, that often.
Never.
No. Although I will say there's one bit that did make me laugh, and I don't know whether it was intentional or not, is that we have a scene of her, like, seeing the devastation, the robots taking the trees away and, setting fire to Green Hills. And then we just cut to, like, just the buildings just popping out. They do, like, just the buildings go blip, 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 blip. Which I think was intentionally a joke because it just happened so quick. And I think it's because they don't have time, because presumably if they were to do this, they would have to build other sets, like if it being a description and then being built. So I think it was just a cheap way of them to like, how do we show this world change? Just do it as a quick, blim, 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 blim thing. So I don't know whether that was intentional or not as a joke, but it made me giggle a bit.
Yeah, the worst joke I still laugh at is that they left the front door open.
Oh yeah, that one's been going around. That one's been definitely going around.
It worked. It's just when Sonic and Tails just look at the door being wide open, it's like, oh yeah, we did.
You hear the sound effect in the background, just the background noise as well.
Knuckles. Okay, let me just. I don't like his voice.
Well, which version actually? Because I've actually looked up, and there's technically 2 different actors playing his voice.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
so
right now it's the I guess the modern version. I guess you could say I don't like.
Right. Well, the main one, so Knuckles the Echidna in the Prime, I guess Prime Knuckles, if we're going to call him that, is played by Adam Neutra, if I've said his name right. So he plays that version. I will say he's got a very low voice for Knuckles.
It's like he's trying to be Idris Elba.
I will say there's a bit of that. I did think there's a bit of that.
It's like it
Whereas
worked for that movie. Why not put it in this one? Because
probably I don't.
it's established in the movie that it sounds like that. This one is established in the games. It sounds a bit more laid back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, we are dealing. The other thing is the cast members. They're all Canadian because they're making this show in Canada. So that's why none of the game actors are involved. But they're going to do their own thing. Although the other one is Vincent Tong, who plays the Renegade Knuckles in this, and
Yeah,
apparently he
that
played.
one works.
I will say he sounded a bit sort of New York. He sounded. Can you remind me of what was it, Joey from Yu-Gi-Oh? He has a slightly, is it New Jersey or Brooklyn accent? It's like, why has he got that when he lives in Japan type deal?
Eh.
Again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it reminded me of that a bit. He's kind of
Yeah,
got
I can see. I can see what you mean, but it works. It works
Yeah,
with his character.
it makes me think he could be in the middle of the audience. So forget about it, type deal. He could do that sort of stuff.
But considering he has said that, yes.
Yes. Oh, there you go.
Also, Sonic's voice, which surprisingly he streamed playing Sonic and he actually did his voice while talking as Sonic.
Yeah.
He sounds like a cross between. I know he's trying to do a bit of a Roger impression, but I get more Drummond from him.
He does sound. He seems to mix between either Roger or Ryan. Basically, he seems to do the two. He seems to be like
I get a lot more Ryan Drummond from him than I do Roger Craig Smith.
Right.
That's not saying he's a bad voice actor.
No.
He's got the personality down to a fucking T in his own way.
Yeah, definitely.
Amy is okay.
Funny enough, I was going to say, funny enough, Darren Mack, who plays Sonic, he's also the voice of Wobot and Cubot, which I did find it funny that they're in this because most of the advertising.
They don't need to be.
I don't know.
I know, like they have to be there because they're Eggman's lackeys. Okay, fair enough, they're Eggman's lackeys, but does they have to be Wobot and Cubot? Because in Sonic Boom, they establish themselves because they work. You got a reason, or a sound of reason, and you got an idiot.
Well, it's kind of like the comedy duo. They've got the smart one and the dumb one. They've always, and again, let's be fair, if Sonic cartoons have done anything, they've always said, yeah, Eggman needs someone to talk to / abuse at the same time. So that seems to be a trope.
But for the brief moments we see him in the first episode, they don't do that.
Again, I don't know whether here's the thing: we don't know whether they'll appear later in the show. Which I'll be surprised if there's not.
I don't like the fact that they're even there. It was bad enough when I thought, why the hell should they be in Sonic Boom, not in the game? So why are they in the show? Because they existed in Sonic Colors.
Well, they're introducing Colors, so
and Sonic Lost World. So what's the point? But they worked in Boom because of his comedic nature. In Forces, they barely did fuck all.
I mean, like I said, they're just lackeys. They're just there now. They're just part of the universe of.
Yeah, apparently they have to be in every universe. I know they said that this is supposed to be somewhat canon to the actual games as well. But if you're gonna do that, at least write them correctly.
Again, I'm curious to see if they'll pop up again, whether they just appear for the beginning or whether there's an episode where it's like, maybe there's a universe where Cubot's the smart one and Orbot's the dummy. So, if that could happen.
I doubt it.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah, Amy's voice, expected. I don't know why. It doesn't feel like Amy, but at the same time is.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, she's the singing voice for Pinkie Pie from MLP of all things. So that's who's playing her.
Huh.
So there's a fun.
And Tails, pretty good. I enjoy Tails' voice.
That's AJ and Dash for you MLP fans. So that's who's playing Tails.
I figured I recognized the freaking shouting somewhere.
I will say it's funny because she's already played 2 tomboy characters in one show, so it's kind of all right. How much of that is going to peer into Tails? Which I don't hear much of it. I will say that's the thing when I've been watching all these characters. Like, how much of their voices from OLP am I going to hear and come out from the mouths? Am I going to hear a bit of character A, character B, and for the most part, they are just doing their own thing with them, and they work.
Well, they are doing their own thing at the same time. They are pretty close to what is currently the Studio Opposites crew. So there is actually, you have to do an impression of this, or can you match this?
Yeah, I know. I mean, the other one that made me laugh is Rouge's voice is the singing voice of Rarity of all people. Which, if you've ever heard Rarity sing, because she sounds completely different to what she normally sounds on that show, so I just find that kind of funny. Yeah,
Rouge's voice it's just perfect. I like it more than the modern version.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, talking about voices, we should bring up Big the Cat because that's something that a lot of people are kind of surprised he's in this as well.
They finally fixed the fucking mouth.
Oh, there's some people kind of saying, why does he look like a cat anymore? It's like,
Yeah, the thing that put me off is like in the first clip we saw of him, his mouth was to the side,
mm,
and in the show, his mouth is more center,
yeah,
and that works a hell of a lot better. It still has the same animation, so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
still mouth flaps and all that,
Mhm.
but it works a hell of a lot better than it does to the side.
Yeah, he definitely, from the bit we've had, he sounds less dopey than his game counterpart. That's something I've noticed. So he's not as, type deal. Um, Although there is a joke actually, because one of the things in this is there's a line, because one of the moments in it is there's a bunch of like drones trying to find where Sonic is and asking citizens if they've seen him, and they mentioned him and they said Desert in 1998. So it's like, haha, well, that's the year he was created.
Not to mention Tales of Pascal is 1992.
1992, both in the regular and in this dystopian reality as well.
Yeah, you gotta throw in a game reference. That's a lot of game references, but they're not kind of shoved in your face saying, remember this, remember this. It's
Yeah,
like,
there's not too much of that.
Hey, I get it.
Yeah, there's some of that. Although, funny enough, it's funny that because one thing I do find is kind of weird is in the prime. I'm going to call it the Prime universe. That's the main one it takes place in. Is we have Green Hill, we have the Checker Mountain Plains, we even have rings, which we do see Sonic actually collect them, and in part two we do see him fight Shadow, sorry, and he does keep losing them every now and again. So it's funny that they're just there. There's no like reason for them just flying around because they do just act like the game rings. They just float around, they spin around, and he collects them when he needs them.
It's kind of expected, really. It's just like
It is. I'm just surprised they don't make more of a thing to like why they're there or have an explanation. Just to just go with, yeah, they're here. He collects them.
yeah, because like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Exactly. I mean, it's funny.
Just is.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny considering that in SatAM they actually give an excuse to why the rings work for him.
Oh
And
yeah, they added lore to a lot of things in.
I know
SatAM.
that's what I find funny is, and they actually find an excuse to why is this MacGuffin in here in the first place. So again, it's a surprise that they just went with, yeah, they're here, go with it.
It makes more sense than keep saying, "Ooh, ring, yum 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 yum," every 5 fucking seconds, and boom.
Yeah, but that's a whole other universe that we don't deal with anymore.
Yeah, and going straight to the narrative, I think the writers enjoy writing an evil Amy.
Rusty Rose is
Yeah,
called.
I think they really enjoy writing an evil Amy. I say this because I am 6 episodes into the show as well.
Okay, right. I mean, they do definitely play the fact that she's basically the Terminator RoboCop in this show. That's basically what they turned her into. Like, effectively, that she is an unstoppable killing machine if, wasn't reprogrammed by Tails, because that's the plot point they make out.
And her fight scenes are fucking amazing.
I know. I mean, they really, when you say they love Rusty Rose, they really do, because, like, no, not only like as a character, we like just doing
everyone else is very stretchy in their fight scenes.
I mean, she
bounce around, but hers is still stiff, fast, but stiff, and it works because, robot.
Yeah. And it is funny because they set up the fact that apparently she volunteered to be turned into like this, supposedly. That was her decision.
Enhancements, yeah.
Yeah, she had the enhancements. And if you notice on her eye, the one eye she has, that's herself. It's like, if you look at the pupil, it's got like technological stuff in it. It's kind of like if you look at the Vision from the MCU films, like his eye, literally his eyelids have got like these sort of technical stuff in it. So there's a bit of that in there. So, but again, I'm curious to see what they do with that. I mean, again, as I've watched it now, there's very much saying she's programmed by Tails to be with them, supposedly against her own will. Although I'm curious to see whether they'll do anything. Does she break a programming? Does she rediscover herself or something? Again, you probably know, but I don't yet.
Yeah. I also hate the fact of how often the show ends on a fucking cliffhanger.
Well, I guess it's clearly designed that it wants you to keep watching it. That's what I mean.
I know, but it's just like at the certain moments, like when stuff gets really interesting, it's like end of episode 1, you see Sonic saying he's down hallucinate and see Shadow, and it's like Shadow flash back to the modern, and Sonic punches him, and it's just dun, 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 you son of a bitch! Next one. I know TV shows is expected, but I hate cliffhangers. I really do. And considering you told me there's 8 episodes so far shown of a 24 episode block, you got tearing. You hear me some fucking rages on Twitter.
Here's the thing. I can tell you this. As a kid, I used to hate multi-parters and cliffhangers as a kid because I wasn't always guaranteed I was going to see the next episode. Because what would happen, like, put it this way, if I watched part 1 of an episode and say the next day, you think, oh, part 2 what happened, then they may do the thing where they just reset them. So you go back to episode 1 and build all the way back up, which used to piss me off as a kid.
Dragon Ball Z did that 5 fucking times.
Yeah, yeah, I do remember.
It'll come straight out to the Super Saiyan arc of the Frieza saga, and it'll go straight back into the Saiyan saga with Gohan training with Piccolo.
Exactly.
It's like,
yeah.
maybe the Super Saiyan episode.
Yeah.
Nope, he's slicing off the T-Rex's tail again.
Yeah, we're back to the reset button. Literally, the reset button of that.
It did that 5 goddamn times.
Like I said, I saw that a lot as a kid, so I'm kind of thankful for at least now we have access to actually watch these damn things. And again, I get the feeling that because we've got 8 episodes, I think this will be like at least the end of one sort of part of the arc of it. So at least that will be self-contained enough until we get the next set of episodes.
Yeah, hopefully it won't take too goddamn long.
No, I mean, if I put it this way, I would say, like, given that we have these now, I probably would say within maybe the first 3-4 months of next year, we may get the next set of 8, maybe.
Hopefully in February, March time.
Yeah, probably that. And then when that's done, then towards maybe like summer, we'll have like the last 8, and that'll be all 24 episodes on, and then by that point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I will say episode 2. That had a freaking one hell of a tease cliffhanger.
Yeah, I will say that's the one that felt like the most. It just cut off right there because it literally ends with, Rusty Rose about to beat the shit out of Sonic, and it just stops right there.
Yeah.
So that's the most. That I would say out of the 3, that's the most where it just feels like it just stops rather than feels like a natural cliffhanger for you to stop and want you to see more.
Yeah, I would say the first 3 episodes, because the first 3 episodes still take place all in the same narrative, even though 4 is slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think the first episode is about 40 minutes long. Although if you watch any show on Netflix, there's like 3-minute credits of like other languages stuff there, so that probably adds on to it. But yeah, these episodes are surprisingly like almost 30 minutes long each, I think.
Yeah, about 25 minutes long.
Yeah, so they clearly do try and get a lot out of this. I mean, particularly within these 3 episodes, they try a lot to set up, what this universe is, how the characters are, what they're trying to achieve, and particularly Sonic's whole gambit in the middle of this whole thing. So they really do get a lot out in these 3.
Yeah, they feel very condensed for an episode.
Yeah, I will say it didn't feel like it was rushing it. I mean,
no, that's one thing I like about it. It's just besides the whole, I guess the writing is just unexpected because again, 10 years of this self-contained meta. There's a lot happens in the episodes. But it doesn't feel it's been rushed into a point for a conclusion or a resolution. It's like we got plenty of time to do this, and we're just going to get to the next major points. And next major point is always important, not just a whole throwaway scene. Sonic 2's wedding.
To be fair, I would say the Wade scene in the middle of that's the one that I always say that you could have cut that out and you would have missed nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me was the pace killer of that movie. I'd say between that and the dance scene, those are the 2 things I go back and go.
Between the 2, I'd rather take a dance scene over the fucking wedding.
We'll have another. Well, that's probably another conversation for another time. But no, I mean, it's funny you mentioned this because, like you said, the last few years, game-wise, we've had, in many ways, the games have felt more like Saturday morning cartoons in themselves, of the kind of jovial, jovial type deals, whereas this is more a full-on serialized storytelling thing. It's still lighthearted and fun. I mean, that's the thing. It never loses like that. Yeah, there's still jokes in here. There's still goofy things because again, there's like we got 5 Eggmans and the different ages and personalities. So yeah, we're gonna have fun with that aspect. But
I just realized something. This could have easily been the freaking setup for Sonic Forces.
I heard a lot of people saying that this feels like Sonic Forces done better. I heard a lot of people say that.
Yeah, I think that's also the reason why I don't like the story of Sonic Forces story. I don't think it's the worst. But considering at the time, like, we're going to make it more dark and serious, and yet you just completely fucked it up.
Yeah, I mean,
you could have done this. You could easily have done this.
Yeah, this feels like probably more what they wanted to do, but because how long did they make that game? It was under 3 years, and it felt like they had a big idea, but they rushed that like crazy.
They'll focus more on the engine.
Exactly, yeah. So they wanted a big setup, but they didn't really know how to pay it off. That was the big problem with that game.
We've got to get something out for the fans. And that's the same reason why there's a few issues with Sonic Frontiers, but then again.
Yeah, but then again, that's the case of, let's not go into process because we'll be here all fucking day. Yeah. But no, I mean, like you said, with the thing with Prime is that it does feel like that's the same setup of what if the world was taken over by Robotnik in this case, this is how bad it would be if, in this case, what if something ever existed to stop him in the first place? So they just run with that idea.
Yeah, and the multiple Eggmans, I like the different personalities, but I think Babel gets too much screen time.
He is the first one we meet, technically, in the whole thing. There's literally a whole battle scene with this baby Robotnik, and
it can't talk, but it can operate machinery, and people understand him.
Yeah, people understand him. In fact, he's the one who basically says, eject the energy from him, and one of them goes, "Whoa, that's a bit mean. You heard the baby, do it."
Is that excessive?
Yeah.
You heard the baby. It's just a phrase, you heard the baby.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
It's like that joke from Lee Evans where he's like, you're trying to entertain kids all the time. Do something. Kill him.
Yeah.
So, besides spoiling too much of the 3 episodes, because again, it's only one day after broadcast, I guess you could call it.
I guess just like being dumped, basically. That's how they work these days, just being dumped on streaming service.
Uploaded on the line.
Uploaded, showcase.
Yeah, just to say on the line, that will piss people off. Yeah, this show, fucking hell. It's like, again, it's so unexpected, especially after 10 years, because we've been conditioned for 10 years. This is how Sonic is going to be. Then all of a sudden, this year alone, this feels so different and it's so completely new direction for Sonic. It is such a good show. Is there problems with it? Yeah, probably. Probably on a second replay of the entire show, I'll probably find something to complain about.
Yeah, my only worry with the show is that considering that it's very much it wants you to keep watching it to the next episode, it does make you wonder rewatching it all the way through. Is like, will the individual episodes hold up? Will you still enjoy them without having to watch the grander story, the grander side of the story? Because we said this with Boom. Like Boom was self-contained mini episodes. You can watch them in any order for the most part.
Yeah, I think the entirety of the of 2 seasons of Boom, they only had interconnecting episodes twice. They'll have there's references.
Yeah,
I mean, 3 times actually. 3 times they did that. They did that with Robots in the Sky, Eggman the video game, and then you had the different perspective episodes of Plane, Trains, and Automobiles ripoff and the Girls' Excellent Staycation.
Yes, yeah. I mean, again, even
that was the only time there was actually an expanded narrative, but even then, every episode was its own thing.
Yeah, and again, I think that alone-wise, you could rewatch those episodes more, as opposed to this one is like, this is part 1 of the biggest tale. It's like, would you still enjoy part 1 as its own episode without going back to watch episode 2, 3, and 4 right afterwards?
No, I couldn't.
So again,
I really couldn't. I have to judge the whole show as a movie.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm curious to see how the rest of the show pans out. Whether, as you say, the next few episodes are more standalone-ish, like Sonic goes to a new dimension, gets an adventure, then moves to the next one. It's like, I'm curious to see how they go with that, at least.
I think I would have preferred that, but I'm not. Because like I said, my expectations was one thing, but I'm not complaining about what we got.
No. I mean, I've always said this before. I've said this countless times, probably to you and other friends, probably anybody online. It's like every Sonic show is a different beast. It always does its own thing. And again, going into this, I was just expecting to do your own thing, entertain me your own way. I'm not holding you to any baggage for what the last show did. It's like, you're going to entertain me, what you're going to do with this character in this world, and just go ballistic. That was my attitude with this whole thing, especially when they said, we're doing a multiverse setup. It's like, do it. Go crazy. Do what you can. Make it as fun or as exciting as you can. And like I said, within 3 episodes, like I'm hooked. I'm definitely hooked. I just want to make sure that you keep it up for the next few episodes.
And you know what the best thing about this whole show is?
Go on.
It's not a recolor.
No, that's the big difference. That is the big difference. Unlike Boom, where it really was we just did the colors because budgetary wise, whereas this one, it's like, no, we actually spent time to build each world to be its own thing.
What makes this Green Hill different from that Green Hill? We use a different shade of green. It's emerald.
Again, I know that was what happened with Boom, and it looks cheap because it is a cheap way out. And to be fair, it was mostly focused on being the comedy show than being an era. That's the big difference.
It works in a comedy show because it's lazy writing.
I wouldn't say lazy writing. It's just like it's having fun with it. It's just having fun.
That's the same reason why they had trouble getting Shadow to work. But again, you have to write him very seriously in a stupid scenario, and that made it 10 times more funny.
I know. I mean, that's the thing is like, if they did a third season, I would have loved to have seen an episode where, for whatever reason, he has to spend time with the gang to like enjoy life or whatever, and just see him be Mr. Mopey, basically Mr. Moody, all the way through it. You could have easily done that into an entire episode.
Yeah, and Shadow in this show is a lot better, in despite only being so far 2 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly going to be a bigger part. Presumably, we see in the trailers like he somehow contacts Sonic through the different multiverses anyway, so he has some way of telling him what's going on.
Yeah. Again, I'm not spoiling anything.
But no, I am, like I said, I'm already hooked. I will say for a 3-part episode, it does a really good job of setting up what are the stakes, how this universe, how this multiverse works scenario, and just like introducing new variations of characters that we know and love. And I will say that I think it's done a great job of establishing, you know, if you're going to do multiverse, you can play with these characters. You can make one, if one's serious in one universe, you can make it goofy in the next, and vice versa. So it's like they're already going in the right direction with this.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing as I said before, I just worried like watching it all the way back is like, will it hold up as individual episodes as alone, as opposed from one whole thing you have to watch in one big gulp?
Yeah, it's not like I kind of enjoyed the show, but right now I'm kind of falling out of it. It's a show on Netflix also called Paradise PD.
I've heard of that.
They've made three shows now. They're all second the same fucking show.
I've heard of it. Yeah,
I still prefer the first one, Brickleberry, but if the latest one, Faza, Christ, that is bad. But I say this because Paradise PD has its own narrative throughout, kind of like Doctor Who, but a lot more in your face. But each episode is its own thing. You can watch any episode of Paradise.
Yeah,
if you want to. But the overall arc is still there. Every season has its own narrative arc, with each episode you can watch individually.
Yeah.
I forgot what we're talking about now. But, yep, Sonic Prime, if you haven't watched it yet, what the hell are you doing here listening to me talk about it?
Well, if you're listening to this, you're probably watching it anyway, so hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of the series like us two are and see where it goes from here.
I'll be one hell of a skill though. Listen to Sonic Prime in one ear and listen to a podcast in the other while playing Doom, playing Sonic Robo Blast on like PC.
Oh Lord! I mean, people complained that there was enough Sonic content out for the last few years, and it's been overwhelming 2022 with this stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot. It felt quite a long wait to get where we are right now, but it was worth it.
No, I love the fact that they have done something. Like I said, this is one thing I think is great about Sonic as a character getting done in different. Basically, Sonic as a media thing, basically, because every time he's translated into a different media, he always melds, he always changes, and for the most part, it works, I think, whereas other video game characters, put it this way, the Cuphead show, maybe, some people may enjoy that over this, and that's fine, but it's like, you're only going to get one show out of that. I can't see in 10 years' time they're ever going to revive that. That's a one-off deal. There's only going to be one show, and then it'll probably be left on Netflix just to be another thing you could watch. Whereas Sonic is like, this is the 6th cartoon we've got out of this character now. And undoubtedly, there'll probably be a 7 and 8, in the good few years. But the fact that they managed to get 6 out of the 30 years he's been around for, that surprises me the most. And it never ceases to amaze me, people just finding new ways of making this character work in whatever media he's in.
Should be 7, he had a movie as well, remember?
I'll end with this. As of recording now, a lot of people are still wondering whether there's going to be any of the geek stuff popping into the show. And so far, nothing has turned up explicitly. That said, I am curious if they do it. I know supposedly they said they aren't going to do it, but they could be lying. It happens. So I am genuinely curious if they will do it for like towards the end of the show. Because, as I said before, this show has to stand its own 2 feet. It has to have its own identity. And I think for the 3 episodes we've seen, it's done it well. So if they do that, leave it to the end. Leave all the references, bonanza stuff towards the very end of the series, as far as I can say.
To end this podcast before we ramble a little longer, they're air shoes. The best fourth wall joke I have ever heard in a long while.